There's a special kind of trap reserved for the one who escapes. My name is Miriam Knox, and I was the success story of my family. I was the one who got the college degree, the good job, and the steady paycheck. To them, that didn't mean I was an inspiration. It meant I was an obligation. My phone lit up with a group call, an ambush I knew was coming. They were smiling, but I saw the demand in their eyes. This time, the favor they asked for wasn't just my money, it was my future. They had sacrificed for me, they always said. Now I had to decide what I was willing to sacrifice for them. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We always appreciate the time you spent here with us. The cursor blurred on my screen, the Revit model of the community housing project swimming in the late-night glow of the monitor. I was the only one left on the junior architect's floor here in Denver, pushing late to finalize the presentation that could land me a promotion. This project, this promotion. It was everything. My phone, face down on the desk, suddenly lit up and buzzed, rattling against the wood. I glanced at it. Family. Knox Crew flashed in all caps on the group FaceTime call. My stomach tightened. A group call on a weeknight this late was never good. It was an ambush. I hesitated, took a deep breath, and swiped to answer. My screen fractured into 4 grinning faces. My parents, Harold and Denise, beamed from their worn-out living room sofa, the picture of working-class church-going sacrifice. My older sister Lacey and her husband Rick were in their car, the lighting dim, but their smiles were too big, too bright. Lacey perpetually overwhelmed and under-resourced, yet somehow the most entitled person I knew. Rick charming when he wanted something, passive-aggressive when he didn't get it. "There she is," Dad boomed. "Our big-shot architect." I felt the trap closing. I was the only college graduate, the designated success story of the Knox family. My parents never let me forget the sacrifices they'd made so I could have this better life. And Lacey. Lacey leaned on me so hard I was surprised my spine hadn't snapped. Rent cover, a car repair, last-minute emergency childcare, it was always something. They all praised my big heart and my steady paycheck, but it always felt like a soft shakedown, a prelude to the next withdrawal. As they launched into forced small talk about their week, my mind ticked through the ledger. The $5,000 for Dad's dental surgery last year. The 4 months I covered Lacey's overdue utilities. The just this once anniversary cruise for my parents that set me back $3,000. They saw my salary not as my own, but as a family resource they had first dibs on. The bitter irony was, I was already planning to give them everything. For the last year, I'd been secretly stashing away my bonus and every spare dollar. I'd booked a week-long beachfront rental in California for the entire family the week after the 4th of July. A 12-person house right on the ocean, flights, a rental van, groceries, everything. It had cost me nearly $14,000, almost my entire savings. I was planning to surprise them all at a family barbecue, to finally see genuine joy in their eyes, not expectation. I wanted to thank them for their sacrifices, to reconnect, to maybe, just maybe, finally be seen as Miriam, their daughter and sister, not just the family ATM. "So Miri," Lacey finally cut in, her voice all sugar. "Since you're doing so great, Rick and I have a tiny favor to ask." Here it was. Rick's company is having their big gala this Saturday. It's huge for his career and we just have to go. We need you to watch the kids. I glanced at my calendar. "All 3 of them," she added. "Overnight. This Saturday." My stomach dropped. "Lacey, this Saturday is the Community Housing Board meeting," I said, trying to keep my voice gentle. "I'm presenting. I can't. This is the project I've been working on for months. It's directly tied to my promotion." The smiles on the screens didn't fade, but they hardened. "A meeting," Lacey scoffed. "You can miss one meeting, Miriam. This is family." Rick, silent until now, chimed in. "Yeah, Miri, it would really mean a lot." The tone shifted instantly, the air going cold. "We always put family first, Miriam," my mother said, her voice laced with disappointment. "We didn't raise you to choose money over family. We sacrificed so much so you could have these opportunities," Dad added, hitting the classic guilt button. "Now you can't sacrifice one single evening for your sister, for your family." I tried to compromise to stem the tide I knew was coming. "I can't miss the presentation, it would sabotage my career, but I can pay for a sitter, a really good one. Or I can come over right after the meeting, it'll just be late." Lacey's voice went flat, all the fake sugar gone, replaced by ice. "A stranger? You want me to leave my kids with a stranger? Unbelievable." She looked away as if to tell Rick, "See." Then she looked back at me, her eyes narrow. "You know what, Miriam? If you can't show up for your family when it counts, don't bother coming to Dad's birthday dinner next week. We don't need that kind of energy around." My blood ran cold. My parents just watched, their silence a clear endorsement. "We just understand why she's upset, honey," Mom said softly. "You're lucky to have a family who wants you around so much." Ambushed and threatened all in the same breath. My place at their table used as leverage for free babysitting. I muttered something about having to go, that my boss was calling. I hung up my hand, shaking. I stared at the dark screen of my phone, their words echoing in the empty office. "Family comes first. We sacrificed. You owe us." My gaze drifted from the phone to my email. I opened it, found the message I'd reread a dozen times, the one that made my heart swell. The vacation booking confirmation. I stared at the $14,000 charge. And for the first time, a dangerous, cold new idea began to form. Back in the quiet of my apartment, the anger from the phone call curdled into something cold and heavy. I sat at my desk, not for work, but for a different kind of accounting. I opened a password-protected spreadsheet I called Family, though Ledger of Sacrifices would have been more accurate. I'd started it 2 years ago, needing to see where my money was going. Line after line scrolled by: $1, $200 for Lacey's rent, $800 for an emergency loan that was never paid back, $450 for Rick's traffic fines, $300 for utility bills. The total at the bottom was staggering, well into 5 figures. "And for what?" "You're a lifesaver," Miri, Lacey would say. And then, the next day, it was forgotten, the baseline reset. They were always there to praise my generosity when they wanted something, but when I got my first big commission or won the Associate Design Award last year, a few polite claps and a quick change of subject to Lacey's kids or Dad's bad knee. My wins were only valuable as they related to my wallet. This wasn't the American dream I'd been working for. I believed in working hard and earning my freedom in building something. But my family twisted my success into an obligation. I wasn't an inspiration. I was a utility. I thought about my community housing project, the one I was supposed to present on Saturday. The design was about creating spaces that gave struggling families dignity, access to resources, a chance to help themselves. I was passionate about helping people find their own agency, yet my own family refused to find theirs, strapping themselves to my back instead. The contrast was suffocating. I was trying to empower strangers while my family kept me in chains. I couldn't shake the feeling. I called Eli. We met at our usual spot, a 24-hour diner that smelled like old coffee and bleach. Eli, a paramedic, was the most grounded person I knew. He understood community, but he also understood boundaries. I laid it all out: the call, the babysitting demand, the threat about Dad's birthday, and finally the secret $14,000 California trip. He just listened, his dark eyes watching me as he sipped his coffee. When I finished, he set his mug down. $14,000, Miri, and you're paying for everyone." I nodded, already feeling defensive. They could never afford it otherwise. "And this babysitting threat," he said, shaking his head, "that's not a request, that's leverage. They threaten, you fold, and the cycle resets." He reached across the table, covering my hand with his. Helping family shouldn't mean sacrificing your self-respect. What they're doing, using your love and your place at the table to control you, that's not love, Miriam. That's control. I started to protest, the old loyalty kicking in. It's just how they are, Eli. I know, he said gently. But what would happen if you just stopped paying, stopped folding? The thought was terrifying, like stepping off a cliff. He planted the seed, and I knew it was one I couldn't ignore. That night, restlessness kept me awake. I fell into the familiar toxic habit of checking Facebook. Lacey had posted a new vague status, counting down the days. Get ready for an epic family summer trip. So blessed to have people in our lives making dreams happen. My stomach soured. People comments flooded in from her friends. You deserve it, girl. Can't wait to see your beach pics. I clicked over to the family group chat. Lacey had posted an hour ago, just counting my blessings, thinking about something huge coming up after the 4th of July. My parents were in on it. Mom replied, "Is this about what we talked about?" Dad added, "Can't wait." Lacey's response, "Let's just say someone stepped up big time. We're finally getting that dream vacation." My blood went icy. They knew. They all knew about the trip. Lacey was already taking the social credit for it, and not one of them, not my mom, not my dad, not my sister, had sent me a private text to say thank you. Not one of them had asked if footing a $14,000 bill was hard for me. I was just the engine making it happen. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a direct text from Lacey. "Hey, about Saturday, can you also grab pizza, like 4 larges, and some of those craft kits the kids like? You're the best. I knew you wouldn't let us down like some people in this family." Before I could even process the audacity, another text came, in this one from my mom. "Proud of you for stepping up for your sister, honey. We raised you right." I felt completely and utterly boxed in my career, my money, my freedom, all held hostage by their conditional love. My hand was shaking as I opened my laptop, went back to my email, and pulled up the vacation confirmation. I read the cancellation policy. Full refund if canceled by midnight tonight. A small fee after that. My cursor hovered over the button. Cancel. It was the night before the gala, the night before my presentation. I stood in my small kitchen, my laptop open on the counter, my phone in my hand. The cancellation policy glowed on the screen, full refund if canceled by midnight. I thought about when I had emergency appendicitis in college 2 states away. My parents didn't visit. They said the gas was too expensive. I remembered moving into my first apartment, hauling a rented U-Haul up 3 flights of stairs entirely by myself. I remembered my celebration dinner when I landed this job, the one my family left early, so they could go watch Lacey's kids, leaving me to pay the bill alone. I heard my dad's voice in my head, the family mantra. We sacrificed, so you owe it to the family. Owed them what? My dignity, my future. My thumb hovered over the button, then pressed down. Cancel reservation. A confirmation email popped up instantly. Your reservation is canceled. Your refund of $13,850 will be processed. It was a small financial loss, the non-refundable booking fee, but as I closed the laptop, it felt like the biggest emotional win of my life. The next morning, right on schedule, my phone rang. Lacey. "Just confirming details for tonight," she chirped as if nothing had happened. "I'll need you here by 5. "I can't come, Lacey," I said. My voice was strangely calm, steady. The silence on the other end lasted 3 full seconds. "What did you just say?" "I can't come," I repeated. "I told you I have the housing board presentation. It's important to my career and I'm not missing it." "Your career?" she shrieked, the sound so sharp I pulled the phone from my ear. "You're choosing a stupid meeting over your family. Over me. You are the most selfish, ungrateful person I have ever met. You're throwing away your family, Miriam. Do you hear me? Throwing us away?" "No, Lacey," I said, still calm. "I'm just done letting you threaten me with exclusion." "Threaten you?" She laughed, a hysterical, ugly sound. "It's not a threat. It's a fact Mom and Dad and I already talked. We all agreed you'd be on probation if you didn't show up tonight. You were one step away from being cut out and you just failed the test. A cold clarity washed over me. It wasn't just a threat, it was a strategy. Probation, I repeated, tasting the word. If my place in this family depends on how much I sacrifice, how much I let you use me, then I was never really loved to begin with. There was a pause, and in that silence, I decided I was done letting her control the narrative. Lacey, I said, my voice changing. You know that California beach house you've been bragging about on Facebook? She went quiet. The one with 7 bedrooms, oceanfront sunset views, and a dining table that seats 12. Her breath hitched. The anger vanished, replaced by ecstatic greed. I knew it. I knew you were planning something like that. Oh my God. Miri, that's amazing. When are you telling Mom and Dad? I'm not, I said. I canceled it yesterday. The trip is gone. For a moment there was nothing. Just dead air. Then a raw scream. You what? You canceled it. You're punishing the whole family just because you don't want to babysit for one night. No, I'm not. I said, the ice in my voice matching the ice in my veins. I'm protecting myself. I'll tell them, she shrieked. I'll tell everyone what you did to us. Go ahead, I said. Tell them everything. Tell them how you used a vacation you didn't plan and didn't pay for to build clout online. Tell them how you tried to threaten me into childcare like I'm staff, not your sister. Tell them how you put me on probation from my own family. I took a breath. Enjoy your gala, Lacey. I hope it's worth every sacrificed dollar. I hung up. Moments later, the family group chat detonated. Lacey Miriam canceled our family trip to the beach just because she's mad about babysitting. She's punishing the kids, Mom. What trip, Miriam? What is she talking about? Is this true, Dad? You're joking. We've been talking about this for months. Lacey said you were handling it. My fingers moved across the screen, calm and precise. I wrote one long message. Yes, I planned a $14,000 vacation for the entire family as a surprise. I paid for it all. And yes, I canceled it. I canceled it after Lacey threatened to ban me from Dad's birthday if I didn't sacrifice my career to babysit. I'm done. I attached the spreadsheet, the ledger of every dollar, every loan, every bailed out bill. I am done being the family safety net while having no safety for myself. The replies were instant. Mom, Miriam, you are being so dramatic. Family forgives family. This is just money. Dad, I can't believe you'd hold the family hostage with money. This isn't how we raised you. I looked at their words, their predictable manipulative deflections. Then I closed the app. I put my phone face down on the counter, walked into my room, and got dressed for my presentation. I nailed it. I stood before the community board, my voice clear, my passion for the project evident. I talked about agency, about dignity, about how safe, affordable housing wasn't a handout, but a foundation. The board members were engaged, asking smart questions. My boss was beaming. Afterward, a woman from the board pulled me aside, praising my vision and empathy. My boss clapped me on the shoulder, his eyes bright. That, Knox, he said, is how you get a promotion. We're talking leadership roles. While my blood family was imploding in a group chat, I was being embraced by a different kind of family colleagues, community leaders, people who saw my value as a person, not a wallet. That evening I was at Eli's place. I'd told him everything. He just held me, then made me dinner. As we were cleaning up, my phone, which I'd left on his counter, buzzed again. He glanced at it. More. I nodded, tired. He picked it up, his face hardening as he read the screen. It's from your dad. You are not welcome at my birthday dinner unless you fix this. And another from Lacey. You better uncancel that trip or you'll be sorry. He looked at me, his eyes full of concern. What are you going to do, Miri? I took a deep breath, the last tremor of fear finally leaving me, replaced by cold, hard resolve. I'm going to show up, I said, but not the way they think. A week later, I parked my car down the street from my parents' house, not in the driveway. My heart was a drum against my ribs, but my hands were steady on the wheel. In my bag was a simple white envelope, and inside it, the printed ledger. As I walked toward the house, I thought about the values I'd built my life on. Resilience, not just bouncing back, but bouncing forward. Community, the one I was building at work, the one I had with Eli, the chosen family that added to your life, instead of just subtracting from it. And personal freedom, the right to define your own life, to set boundaries, even with the people who were supposed to love you most. I was terrified, but I was also, for the first time, resolved. I knocked. My mom opened the door, her face a mask of strained politeness. The sound of the TV, usually blaring, was turned down low. The living room was tense, a silent battlefield. Lacey was on the sofa glaring at me with Rick hovering behind her, refusing to make eye contact. My father stood by his recliner, his arms crossed. The only normal sounds came from Lacey's kids playing with blocks in the corner, blessedly unaware. "Well," my father said, his voice flat, breaking the silence. "Are you here to apologize and fix this, or are you here to make things worse?" I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a man I'd spent my whole life trying to please. "I'm here to tell the truth," I said, my voice quiet, but carrying in the stillness. "What happens after that is up to you." I stepped forward into the center of the room. "I'm not here to apologize for canceling the trip." Lacey started to speak, but I held up a hand. "I planned that trip as a gift. A $14,000 gift to thank you, Mom and Dad, for your sacrifices. To have a real family vacation. I was going to surprise you all." I looked at Lacey. "But you didn't just expect it. You assumed it. You let Lacey build hype on social media like she'd earned it. You all talked about it for months, according to your texts, but not one of you ever talked to me about it. You never once asked if I was okay. You just treated me like your provider, not your daughter." "We never asked you to do all that," my mom protested, her voice trembling. "We never asked you for that kind of money. You didn't have to ask." I shot back, my voice finally rising. "You pressured. You guilt-tripped. You threatened to kick me out of the family, to ban me from my own father's birthday if I didn't drop my career to babysit. That's asking, Mom. That's just asking, without the honesty." I turned to my sister. "You were using my money to build your image, Lacey." I pulled my phone out and read her posts aloud, the vague bragging, the so blessed comments. "You were collecting gratitude that wasn't meant for you." Lacey's face went white. I was just excited," she stammered. Even Rick had the decency to look uncomfortable, realizing just how bad it looked. My father stepped forward, shifting tactics. "That's enough," he said, trying to sound reasonable. "We're all stressed. Life's too short to fight about money. Let's just calm down, move on. Rebook the trip for later. We're family." "No," I said, and the word hung in the air, final. "This isn't about money. It's about respect." I looked at each of them, my blood, my family. "I am not your retirement plan. I am not Lacey's backup spouse or her ATM. I am not your on-call babysitting service. I am your daughter. Or I was." I took a deep breath. "From now on, I won't be giving money. I won't be bailing anyone out. I won't be guilted into childcare. If I show up, it's because I choose to be here, not because I've been ambushed or threatened." My dad's face turned a dull, angry red. "You're abandoning this family, Miriam." "No," I said, my voice breaking but my will holding firm. "I'm stepping out of a broken role so I can have a real relationship with you. If you even want one." My father's eyes were like stone. "If you walk out that door without fixing this," he said, his voice dangerously low, "don't bother coming back." My mother burst into tears, a hand flying to her mouth, but she didn't contradict him. Lacey just stared at me, her eyes full of venom, and muttered, "You're dead to me." My own eyes stung, but I held their gaze. I walked to the coffee table and set down the white envelope. The ledger. "When you're ready to talk to me like I'm family," I said, "you have my number." I turned and walked out the door to the sound of my mother's sobbing and my father's furious silence refusing to call me back. I was almost at my car, fumbling for my keys, my hands shaking when a small voice whispered from the shadows of the porch. Miriam. I turned. It was my niece Lacey's oldest, her eyes wide. Are you really never coming back? 6 months passed. 6 months of silence mostly. My dad never called, not after that birthday. My mom sent a few "we miss you" texts, but they were always inevitably followed by a practical ask. Can you help me figure out this new phone bill? Or, do you remember the name of that plumber you used? I learned to answer the practical question, but ignore the emotional bait. Lacey blocked me on everything, then unblocked me twice, just to send long rambling rants about how I'd ruined her life, her kids' lives, and her credit. Then she'd block me again. I grieved. I grieved the family I desperately wanted, the one I'd tried to buy with $14,000 vacations, and I mourned the fact that they were incapable of being it. But I also, for the first time in my adult life, felt a profound sense of relief. I slept through the night. My bank account was stable, growing even. I had time. I had energy. My life was finally my own. I poured that new energy into building a different kind of family. I got my promotion and used my new position to volunteer for a neighborhood design committee, helping revitalize a local park. I started mentoring a young woman from a low-income background, a first-generation college student who wanted to be an architect, and she reminded me of why I'd fallen in love with the work in the first place. My relationship with Eli deepened. He never used family as a weapon. He respected my boundaries, celebrated my wins without caveat, and met my emotional needs without making me feel like a tool. We spent Thanksgiving with a motley crew of his paramedic friends and my coworkers, a potluck, where everyone showed up because they chose to, not because they were obligated. It was loud, chaotic, and the most peaceful holiday I'd ever had. Word about my original family trickled back. Lacey's carefully curated image of the blessed, supported stay-at-home mom began to crack. She'd complained on Facebook that her rich, selfish sister cut them off, but the response wasn't what she'd expected. A few distant relatives and old high school friends commented, "You can't expect to live off your sister forever," and "maybe Rick should get a second job." Without my quiet checks, my parents' finances took a hit. They were forced to downsize, selling the house I grew up in for a small condo. My dad, who was nearing retirement, had to pick up extra shifts. My mom got a part-time job at a fabric store. I felt a pang of sadness for the stability they'd lost, but it was overshadowed by a grim, hard justice. This wasn't revenge. It was just the natural consequence of a system that had relied on one person as its safety net. When the net was removed, they had to learn to stand. Then one afternoon, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Hello? Miriam." The voice was subdued, older. My father. My stomach clenched. "Dad?" "Hi," he said. He sounded tired. "Your mother and we got that envelope you left, saw the numbers." He paused and I heard him take a shaky breath. I didn't realize. I just didn't realize how much you were giving." It wasn't a full apology. It wasn't, "We were wrong," or, "We're sorry we hurt you." But it was a tremor of humility, something I'd never heard from him before. "We're having a little cookout next Saturday," he said. "Just us. I'm asking if you'd consider coming. No expectations, no money talk." I held my breath, the old fear mixing with a new cautious strength. "Dad," I said, "if I say I can't make it, will I be banned from Christmas?" He was quiet for a long time. Finally, he sighed. "No, Miriam," he said, his voice rough. "We don't have that right anymore. Maybe we never did." I debated it all week. Part of me wanted to stay free, to never look back. But that call, that sliver of humility, had lodged itself in my heart. I decided to go, but on my terms. I would drive my own car so I could leave at any time. There would be no financial discussions, no talk of the past. And Eli was coming with me. When we arrived, it was awkward. Lacey was there, her face pinched, and she gave me a cold nod before busying herself with potato salad. But her kids ran right to me, yelling my name and hugged me hard, and for a moment none of the rest mattered. The changes were small but significant. No one asked me for money. No one called me selfish. My dad, in a faded "World's Best Dad" shirt, actually thanked me for coming and shook Eli's hand. There was no magical healing, no grand reunion, no tearful apologies. But there was a shift. They were treating me like a guest, a relative, not an obligation. I realized I could have this a limited, cautious contact. And if they ever reverted, if the threats and demands ever started again, I could walk away. And this time they knew I would. I stood near the grill, a plate of food in my hand, watching my parents laugh with a neighbor they'd invited. I watched Lacey's kids chasing each other through the yard. I felt Eli's hand slide into mine, a warm, solid presence. My worth, I realized, was never about how much I could sacrifice. My worth was inherent. It was in my work, in my compassion, in the boundaries I'd finally built, and in the freedom I'd claimed. I felt a bittersweet peace settle over me. I couldn't change who they were, but I had finally changed who I was in relation to them. In the end, I didn't destroy my family. I just stopped letting them destroy me. And somehow that was the most American thing I've ever done, choosing my freedom and letting the people who truly love me choose me back. And just like that, Miriam closed the ledger on her old life, choosing to write a new chapter, one defined by respect, not just relation. What did you think of Miriam's decision? We read every single one of your comments and thoughts, so leave yours below. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more. Thank you for listening. This has been a story from Revenge Hour. We'll see you next time.